Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation, and I've got a very special guest to the channel, Jacob Binzer from D-A-D. How are you, Jacob?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you guys doing?
Good, good. You're on the walk, walking in the park, so this is an interesting sort of, you're in transit.
I'm taking you around the park near my house, and it's as I told you just before. It's springtime here, and
Yeah,
it's very lovely. So
fantastic,
if
fantastic.
if you could see what I could see, you would be happy.
I'm sure I would. Look, Jacob, you returned to Australia for a greatest hits tour after playing our shores in 2022. Was it a relatively easy decision for the band to come back so soon?
It was yeah, the easiest thing in the world because we have some catching up to do since we released our first albums back in the early 90s, and I think that we took a long time away from Australia. So we need to
Yep.
catch up. And we had such a good time and such a good reception last time. So we thought we have the greatest hits album out and we have a new album out. So we need to come back to play to you guys.
Great. What are the differences between the Australian audiences that you notice compared to the rest of the world? Is there anything in particular?
Well, the Australian audience is very maybe the closest to the Scandinavian audience in the whole world, actually,
Yeah.
because there's something, Australians are easygoing, a beer loving nation.
Yes.
They want their rock and roll, and it's very easy. And
Yep.
there's some kind of direct connection. So a very easy connection, I think, between D-A-D and Australian audiences.
Yep.
It's uh, it's it's the rock feeling. It brings us together.
Yeah. Was it a surprise to you and the lads that DAD had an audience in Australia in the late 80s and the early 90s? That New Fuel Left for the Pilgrims did resonate with Australia? Was that a surprise?
Well, it's with something when you release an album and get an international record deal, it's something that you hope for, that you
Mm,
could reach out in markets that you think that something could happen, and something happened, and you're just grateful that you can do that. Uh,
yeah.
and no, it wasn't a surprise because you know that there's an audience in Australia that likes this kind of music, and but it's just a question of getting a break, getting the music out there, and we got
Mm,
that.
yeah.
Uh, so that was very fortunate.
I saw you guys in 1990, and there was a lot of heat around that album. And from my perspective, the album seemed to touch a lot of similar turf, like AC/DC, a band that you may have heard called the Angels, pub rock, hard rock sort of genre. Is that something that you recognize that this album may have sort of reached out to Australia because of those bands?
Yes, absolutely. And I think the maybe the first time we went to Australia, the one of our reps took us to an Angels concert actually. So that was one of the first nights out in Australia. We went to see the Angels, and that could have happened in Scandinavia. That concert and that feeling. I mean,
Yes.
so our cultures aren't that different, although we are opposite parts of the world. But um, so clearly the whole vibe resonates. Our vibe resonates with Australians, and we have this yeah, this thing with we like our AC/DC, and we have this hard rock feeling, and we have some elements from the punk, and we
Yep.
have these twisted lyrics with kind of tongue-in-cheek humor,
Yes.
and and Australians, they dig that too. They don't seem to take things too seriously. So, I mean,
Yep.
there's a lot of common ground there. So,
Yeah.
and I think that's
What?
why we can come back. We can come back now,
Yep.
and they're still there.
Yeah. What are your personal musical heroes that have influenced you, Jacob?
Well, that's a lot of different stuff.
Yep.
But clearly, what got me going was the whole punk thing, the energy and the rebellion,
Yep.
and things like the Ramones. I was very much into the Ramones, which is like very simple but very hooky rock and roll,
Mm-hmm.
which I enjoy. And the Clash, the Sex Pistols. Then I got into Van Halen, AC/DC,
Yep.
and um, and the whole rock thing. Put it
Yeah.
put all put together, and then that was when I was a kid, and obviously I started to explore music more deeply, and then I started to listen to jazz and classical and all that stuff. And if you listen to D-A-D and the composition, you can hear lots of different influences.
Oh, absolutely. I was almost
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
say there's a little bit of country in your guitar licks here and there, a little bit of, sort of some of the stylings. Is that something that you were influenced? A little bit of country?
Yes, we started doing from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
We when we started, now it's a cult thing, but when we started the whole country thing and these Western, it was like the most unhip thing to be into back then, uh, for some reason. And we thought, let's do that. That's the most unhip thing right now. So let's pick up on that. And that was kind of a joke. Everything was a joke when you're really young. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yep.
so we brought that element into our punk thing and
Mm,
flirted with that. But there's a lot of great guitar music in country and that Americana
yep.
icon thing that Sergio Leone, Ennio Morricone, all that stuff is
Morricone.
very,
Yes.
yeah,
Spaghetti
very
Western.
iconic. Yeah, spaghetti western. It's a lovely
Yeah.
genre. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Very fertile. I want to talk a little bit quickly about what was the Danish rock scene like in the early 80s? Was that quite fertile? Mm.
Yeah, I'd say it was the post-punk period, which was actually the post-punk period was a lot more fertile than the punk period. Punk was over very quickly, I think, and didn't have that much to offer, maybe apart from a few bands. But the post-punk thing was very creative and a lot of good bands, and the whole new wave movement and
Hmm.
all the synth pop and all that came after the punky sort of came out of that. And so did it was like that in Copenhagen too. There's a lot of different stuff going on. There wasn't much hard rock ever in
Right.
Denmark.
Did you
And
associate yourself with bands like Pretty Maids or Merciful Fate? Because there were a couple of metal bands that were out and about in Denmark. Did you have any association with them? Play with them?
No, no, we didn't. Not at that time. No.
Yeah.
Merciful Fate was. They were pioneers, and they would. I would say that's the most uh, original. They're the one. I mean, they're the part of who invented heavy metal. I'd say in the world altogether, and that's what they did was very very early. They were very early with this kind of music, but
Mm.
were they were isolated from the rest of the community in Denmark because uh, they were considered they were considered it was too radical. I mean, the scene
The,
was very political and very hip and very elitist,
mm,
and they were
hmm.
considered none of that. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, they had very strong
mm,
imagery, and I guess the satanic element, the occult element, would have been quite shocking in those
yes,
days.
yes,
Yeah.
and people the people and the press, they considered that to be crazy and
Yep.
and you know
Yep.
just too weird. And
Yeah.
but I mean, I think musically they were part of the development of heavy
Metal.
metal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's
Then
interesting that you align yourself with the post-punk because the sound of your band became more hard rock and maybe a little bit on the periphery of heavy metal. So that's why I was asking that question. Did you have any
yeah.
association with those bands?
Yes,
So
you're right. You're right there about that. We are on the periphery of hard rock, and you can tell our influences from hard rock and also from post-punk country, and all the and some of our melodies, they are unmistakably Danish Scandinavian because they have this melancholy, this I'd say
mm,
this Nordic tone. We have this bluesy element, uh, like AC/DC, and but we also have this kind of Scandinavian tone to the whole thing.
absolutely. So the third album and your first with Warner's, which was No Fuel Left for the Pilgrims, was the breakthrough album, especially in Australia. Now, with the band changing the name to D-A-D from Disneyland After Dark for the international release, do you personally wish the band would have been able to keep the name, or were you okay with that?
I would wish that we could have kept the full name, because it's just a whack image, Disneyland
Yep,
After Dark. And D-A-D, if you're from an English-speaking country, then it says dad, and that's like a weird name for a rock band. But but
yeah,
it couldn't be any other way because Disneyland is a trademark that and that
absolutely.
yeah.
And by the sounds of it, the lawsuit was coming for you, and you changed the name in the nick of time. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say because there was no way that we could release an album in America with that name.
Yep, yep. So this album was charting in America, and Sleeping My Day Away was getting really heavy MTV rotation. You were touring America behind the album in '89, and I understand you did 30 US shows in 35 days. What are your memories of that tour?
Well, that was the boyhood dreams coming true to tour America, and we were on tour with a band called Badlands. Uh, uh,
Right.
yeah, and they were a band formed by Jake E Lee, the former Ozzy Osbourne
Ray
guitar player.
Gillen. Ray Gillen.
Yes,
Yes, absolutely.
And Ray Gillen, yes,
Yeah.
and they had an album out which was pretty good, and
Hmm.
so we played support for them, and we played some of our own shows as well. And
Yep.
we started on the East Coast and ended up in the West Coast, and it was just like really hard work,
Yep.
playing playing almost every day.
Mm.
And but I mean that it was great because you got to see America, and in those days, well, it was different, and
Yep.
it was. I'd rather do it back then than now. I wouldn't want to go there right now in the Midwest.
So, what were your observations of Badlands as a band? Were you sort of like similar, but just on opposite ends of the world? Did you have a common bond between them?
Well, not really.
Yeah.
They weren't really a band. I mean, it was Jake E Lee's project, and
Right. The
he
boss.
wasn't real. He was the boss, and he was kind of he wasn't really talking to anyone. He was very busy about himself and
Yep. Yep.
very ambitious. And the bass player and the drummer, they were like just hired people. It felt
Right.
like just hired people, and just they were just making a living, and they were like not really into it together as a band. So there was a little funny vibe about them. And Ray
Yeah.
Gillen, he was partying too much, so he got sick by the end of the tour. He got pneumonia or something, and
Right.
then and so they had to cancel the last shows. And by the time we got to Los Angeles, and we played at the Palladium, and they couldn't play because Ray Gillen was sick, and so we just played that as a headliner. And Jake E Lee was furious. I mean, because his singer partied too much and got sick, and they had an album out and they were going on tour and they were like starting to do something, and he was mad as hell, I tell you. But
did the album go really down well with the American crowd? You were starting to get a vibe and a bit of swell of interest from the fans.
Yeah, I think that I was very happy about it. We sold quite a few, 300,000 in the US, and we really got some true fans, and but Warner Bros. They weren't satisfied with the numbers, so they thought that we should we should they thought we should sell like at least 1 million. And so after 2 albums we got dropped, but something else happened by the next album. The whole Nirvana thing came along, and then that was the end of that story.
Absolutely. Was there any other particular, like, let's talk about the second album on Warner's, Risking It All.
Yeah.
Is it true that the title Risking It All is about a real conversation with a record label executive saying, this is your last chance?
Well, I wish. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't heard that before. But by the time, it's funny because that says something about those days also, because that album, when it came out in Scandinavia, it was our biggest album in Scandinavia. And we had a sold-out tour, and we charted in all over Scandinavia. And they were just not into it in the US. Not at all.
Yeah.
We went over that on promotion tour, and when we did promotion for No Fuel Left for Pilgrims, all the magazines, all the media would want to talk to us. And this time around, they were into something else. So it was over before it started with Risking It All in America. Yeah.
When you recorded this album, was there a lot of record company interference as to, this is how this album's supposed to sound, this is the producer you should have, or were you free to do what you wanted to do with the album?
We did it exactly the way we wanted it. We did it in Copenhagen. When we got back from tour on No Fuel, we just started writing. And we did the writing and recording in 1 year. We recorded it in Copenhagen with the same team of producers like the one before. And you could say that was the right decision in terms of our home base. But we didn't get the memo from the rest of the world. But that was the difference. The world was different back then.
Yes.
That was a difference between America and Europe, and the things went slower.
Yeah, absolutely. There was definitely a change in direction. Hey, I want to talk about your live shows, and this is what you guys pride yourself. I need to talk about Stig. Are you always surprised when he comes up with these crazy design bass guitars? Does he ever surprise you with some shaped bass guitar that just blows you away?
Well, I'm not surprised because I know that it's. I know I'm gonna be surprised, so I'm not surprised that I'm surprised. If you know what I mean. You just there's no telling what he comes up with, because he never thinks inside the box and he never thinks outside the box. He's like living in his own box, even. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. He's sort of like your conduit to the punk scene, isn't he? Like the 80s. He's like the living, breathing reference to that
he is.
past, isn't he?
He is.
He keeps that spirit alive in the band.
Yes.
Has there been any hairy moments with him on stage? Like when I saw you in 1990, you had the whole helmet and the fireworks coming off. Has there been any really hairy incidents where you're worried about him or something? Any mishaps?
Yes, I've seen him fall quite a few times, and I remember in Germany, he would, he climbs up on the bass drum or in the second or third song, and he stands there with this bass and his and all his gear, and altogether that's a lot of weight. And
Mm.
when he was trying to go down from the up on the bass drum up on the drum riser, he just slammed right onto the floor, and
Ooh.
with all this weight, and and if he had hit one of either me or Jesper, we would have been killed. I mean, that's a lot of kilos coming down. And once he fell literally through a hole in the stage by one of the posts that the lamp posts, and he broke his arm once because he
Oh
slipped.
dear.
So we had to get a substitute. That was in the middle of the summer, so we played a whole summer with a substitute, and it's just.
That would have
But
been
actually,
different.
yeah, yeah,
Different not having
it
him
was
in the
different.
band.
Yeah, it was different. It was
Yeah.
different. It was much more. It was kind of quiet on stage. I don't know why, but anyway, but he never missed a show.
Yes.
Uh, but you
Yeah.
always worry. You always
Yeah.
worry.
Does he have to put extra luggage when he's traveling? Is there a whole extra 4 cases of his equipment with all these?
Oh yes, he has like a big bag, like the biggest bag, and he relies on someone else to to carry his luggage around.
Your album in 1995, "Help You're Selfish," which was a real harder direction. Was that a conscious decision? You guys wanted to go in a much harder direction, considering what was happening in rock at that time? Alternative grunge. Was that sort of a conscious
Yes,
decision?
yeah, but that was very conscious. Also that, and it was very conscious for me, and it was a little less conscious for Stig and Jesper. Which that I've come to realize that afterwards. But
Yeah.
um,
Did you enjoy playing that sort of harder stuff? And just
yeah, very very much, yes. And I think it's we are Disneyland After Dark, and we are not like a one genre band. We have this hard rock thing going, but we are too um, impatient and too curious to always do the same thing. So
yes,
so if you listen to the whole catalog, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a
absolutely. Since the
yeah,
year
yeah.
2000, you've done 7 albums. Um,
Mm.
from Everything Glows up to The Speed of Darkness. Do you get frustrated personally, Jacob, that international audiences just want to hear Pilgrim or Riskin?
No, I'm fine with that actually.
Yeah.
I think maybe earlier on I was a little uh I expected people to be more uh well, I wanted them to sort of maybe understand the immediate direction of D-A-D more, but now when it's all at a bit of a distance, I can see the audience is right, because if you distill D-A-D down to like 10, 20 songs and take the best ones, then it makes sense that we might have had all detours and playing all kind of salsa songs and really hard metal songs, but
Mm,
when you take the best of D-A-D, it's kind of that on the edge of hard rock, kind of rock music that we're good at.
absolutely. And
And
even some of
yeah,
your later albums, I can hear a little bit of Stones influence. Like you've got your Ronnie Wood thing going, playing a bit of rhythm. Is that something that,
Yes. Yeah.
just more different textures? Is that something you enjoy bringing to the band when you're laying down tracks on a new album? Something a little bit different?
Yeah. I like to, yeah, speaking of guitar parts, when you sort of, when you do the Keith Richards one wood thing, then I want to do something that, I like to play around with that genre and make it as good as possible. And
Yeah.
if it's like on the Helpless Zephyrs album, the sound of the guitar on the song Reconstructed, then I want to do something spectacular in that direction. So I think that's very important to that I do that as a musician. I want to
Yep.
concentrate on do something that I'm proud of and something that will make people listen.
Yeah, absolutely. So you did a greatest hits album, 40 Love. How many more albums does the band have up their sleeve before it's game, set, and match?
Yeah. I have no idea because this album that we just released is, I think that we got really good reception with this album, and we did a good job focusing on writing and recording it.
Yep.
And I think we're gonna uh, not rush into a new period of writing. We are gonna play this album on tour very thoroughly because earlier on, we sometimes when we had a good album, then we would go back and start writing the next one because we thought, oh, we're on a roll, let's do it again.
Yes.
And sometimes it's been the absolutely wrong thing to do. So this time, I think we're gonna enjoy this moment and just see where it brings us, and maybe not plan too much ahead. And how many albums? I have no idea because we've just taken one project at the time, so time will tell.
One at a
Yeah.
time. So you're coming to Australia. You're going to do the greatest hits tour. Is it straightforward to put together a song list for a greatest hits tour, or is there a little bit of a debate in the band about certain songs you want to include and some other folk don't agree? Is there a little bit of friction on some songs?
Yes, there's always friction and there's always debate, and there was like the songs on the greatest hits album. Well, there was a lot of debate about that, and some songs got left out, and some and people disagree, and that's the name of the game. And but I think the greatest hits tour in Australia, that's probably one of the more easier set lists to make because the Australians, they are well, we won't put too much focus on the albums in between. I think we're gonna put focus on No Fear Left for the Pilgrims and one and some of the hits in between. And there's no reason to make it more complicated than that.
Fantastic. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing you in Sydney. You're doing dates all around the country for the greatest hits. Folks, please check out D-A-D. It's been wonderful talking with you, Jacob. I feel like I've lost some kilos just sitting in my chair while you've been walking around the park.
Oh, very good.
And it looks like a beautiful day. One day I'll definitely get to Denmark and that part of the world.
Yeah.
But look, we love your band and we look forward to seeing you in a bit of, I think, almost a month's time. So I'll put this out on the channel. Rock Daydream Nation, everyone. And thank you very much, Jacob, for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having us. Thank you. See you there.
All right. All the best. See you. Bye.
You too. Bye.